Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Project Lemons to Lemonade. Our next guest sold two businesses, a home organizing business and a national corporate productivity training business. She taught for the Bill Gates Foundation for several years, and she went skydiving to overcome her fears of heights. Her fear of heights, even though she loves skydiving, she's still scared of ladders and the glass floor at the Calgary Tower, and she's a native Oakvillian and refuses to go up the CN Tower. Please welcome Dawn O'Connor from Think Productive. Hi, Dawn.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today.
Your smile is so infectious. I try to sit here with a straight face and I just can't.
I know. Well, it's all about bringing like smiles to people out there who are hustling and working. And I want them every time to see my show to be like, oh, a little bit of happiness, a little bit of lemonade comes into their life.
That's great. I admire you for doing this.
Thank you. So we were going to talk about a productivity hack that you have that is so interesting. And it's one I've never heard before. And it's about silence.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We teach productivity workshops to any size business all across the country. And every time I teach this one, I ask the group, like we'll teach 8 or 10 tips. And I always ask, what really resonates for you? And the one about silence has come back consistently as something that people really believe they can get their head around. And so I just want to frame it from the perspective of what happens in our brain when we actually experience silence for long periods of time, being more than a few minutes, even up to 2 hours, if you can imagine just sitting in silence for 2 hours. I know that's a huge ask. But there was a really fascinating, well, I think was fascinating study where they monitored people's brain waves, and they were looking at what impact classical music was having on people's brain, because we know that classical music can be relaxing if you like that. And what they found that there was 2 minutes of silence in between each of the classical pieces that they played, and they looked at the brain activity and they saw that it went into a deeper state of relaxation during the silence than it did during the music. And then there's all kinds of other studies that have been done on mice, which we're extrapolating to humans at this stage, that show if you experience silence for up to 2 hours, you actually grow new neurons that are functional brain cells that help you boost your focus, increase your capacity to think more clearly and your ability to concentrate, and then also to be creative and problem solve and essentially to be productive. So the
My
challenge,
friend who owns Oakland Floats in California is going to love this episode because it's when they float, you put your ear things in and you sit there in total silence. And I did it once and I was like, whoa.
and how did you feel in there? Like, was it comfortable for you to be in silence, or did it
No,
feel?
it was uncomfortable, but I enjoyed it. It was like a challenge for me. I like challenges. And by the end, it was really cool, but it took me a long time to get used to it.
Well, we're sensory seeking people. Like people love to, there's both ends of the spectrum, right? There are people who are highly sensitive people. I'm one of those. Noises, I'm very aggravated by loud noises and sudden noises. And then there are people who will seek out, they want their radio on, they want their TV on, they want to work with music blasting. And there are even apps that mimic the sounds of a coffee shop. Coffeetivity is one that you put that on it, and that decibel that they've created and
The
that
buzz,
white noise,
yes.
that actually stimulates productivity for some. So, but even for those people, they would still experience the benefits of brain growth if they could find places where they can actually be silent. And silence, I'm not saying you have to sit for minutes or hours in meditation. That is also fabulous for our brains. We know that there's all kinds of data and personal experience and anecdotal experience on meditation and productivity. But it's just a simple act of finding some little bits of quiet time. And especially during COVID, when we're in our houses with our small children or teenage children or adult children or our spouses and our dogs and everything else, it could be more challenging for some, and it also could be much easier for some. I know I'm sitting in my office right now, and before I got on the call, I had a good 15 minutes of just complete silence. No music. I just turned everything off. I didn't hear anything in the neighborhood and was able to just really enjoy that. So you can be reading a book, you can be doing your work. You don't have to be meditating, but to seek it out. And so a float tank is a great place to try it. I have clients who have bought the sound dampening headphones and then not play music, just put those on to block out the world. I mean, what would be some ways that you would seek out
I
silence?
think, well, I kept my little earbuds from the float tank that one time I went because they were so sealed in there. So I use them sometimes to, if I can't sleep or, whatever's going on at the house. And so
And they're
that's,
like the little waxy ones.
yeah,
Little,
they're like
yeah.
you roll them into the ball and stuff. Yeah. So I thought those were really cool. I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, I have a collection of earplugs and I use them for sleep and I use them for busy office days when I'm trying to drown out my dogs and quite regularly. But the thing that I hear from my clients is going for a ride in the car and especially during COVID, I'm hearing this. I've had so many emails from clients saying, I'm getting my silence, I'm seeking it out, I'm driving out to the country. And it's not like pure silence, but driving without radio, at least you just have the white noise of the vehicle. And
Yeah.
if these days there's hardly any cars on the road, so it is a much quieter experience.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about driving too, I think, for our brains to relax. And one of the questions I ask always is, where do you get your best ideas? And the audiences always come back with the top two are, well, what do you think the top two are?
Shower.
Number one.
I was like, oh my God, I gotta jump out of here.
Yeah, good guess. And number two is driving in their car.
Yeah.
And interestingly, those are relatively quiet activities. We don't have a lot of sensory input. You're not usually listening to music in the shower, although some people do sing in the shower and they're creating their own noise. But those are places that we can get that peace and quiet.
Yeah, I love it. And you were talking about our inbox zero session and how that's like the peace. And I think that's what it feels like for me. It's like the peace and quiet of my inbox and kind of like that calm feeling of not seeing anything in there.
Absolutely. I think we really have to look to our digital world and all of the notifications that we have on, the audio sounds on our phones and our computers. You can turn those all on. Even the vibration, that loud sound of a vibration of a phone sitting on the desk. And then you kind of take that into the idea of the inbox zero, where you're looking in your inbox and you actually see white space on your screen. And that sends a signal to our brain that we have control over things and that there's a sense of completion, which is so valuable in these times of uncertainty so I just helped a client this morning clean out 16,000 in their inbox. And the sense of relief and control, and really, she hasn't gotten any more work complete, but now she's got a system set up that she can manage it going forward and feel that sense of confidence. Mm-hmm. And the same thing in your calendar is to look for, what are those little pockets of white space that tell your brain and tell you a little message of, I've got a break, I've got some prep time, I've got some planning time, I can move into my next meeting with confidence. I really notice my clients who are highly stressed are back to back to back to back to back meetings, right? And they don't have that reprieve or that break.
Yeah. The nourishment that we need to re-energize.
That's a really good word. It is like psychological nourishment.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dawn.
Thank you for having me. That was fun.
That was fun.
I hope it's useful for people. I hope they can seek out some silence.
Yes, I love it too. It's new for me, but I've learned to love it.
It's not easy. And for many, it's a huge relief.
Yeah, it feels amazing afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Bye.